friends, and welcome to another episode of Dark Side of the Word. My name's Kate, and I'm here with my fantastic co-star, CJ.
Hello, everybody.
Just realized I called you co-star, so co-host, but you are a star today.
I did not even notice that, and thank you. I feel like a star today.
Awesome. Well, this is the week that we talk about current events in the book, writing world, publishing, whatever we deem current event, right? Is that how we say it?
That sounds about right. We'll roll with it.
We're going to do the dreaded topic that everyone hates, because I think everyone's doing. So bandwagon, yay, here we go, let's hop on it.
Yep.
But I think it's important, and I think that it's important for every creative to touch on it, because it affects us. And let's start a conversation. I think that CJ will agree with me when I say we want our podcast to be more than just listeners listening. Yes. We want them to be active. We want a safe space to talk about things in the comment section, on our Instagram, on here. So this is a community. And so it's time to talk about this in the community, which is, drumroll, AI.
Probably obscenely loud, but okay.
That's okay. We're going to talk about AI today. It is the most current of current topics that you could possibly think of.
Yep.
So, as we all have probably seen in the effing news, is AI everywhere. I feel like it popped up overnight. I know that one minute I heard there's this chat GPT you can play with where you can put information, and the next I hear it's everywhere and it's writing. One of the recent things that I saw was that people are putting out AI generated travel books on Amazon.
Wow. And
I guess Barnes & Noble got a whiff of this, because they, on one of their email campaigns, was, we sell books written by real people about travel. Like, read the books written by real people.
Oh, really? Good for them. Good for them.
And it's interesting because I was querying a couple weeks ago, and there was already a question in the ladies' query tracker that asked, was this book written with AI? So that's already popping up here. And we know that part of the SAG and the writer strikes have to do with AI. It also has to do with streaming. So they're not just striking for AI, but they're also striking for streaming rights because they're not getting residuals correctly. I guess the rumor I'm hearing in the film world for actors is that low budget actors, not big names, because I also just heard Keanu Reeves, before AI was even a thing, they CGI'd him in a movie for some stunt in a movie.
Oh, really?
And he hated it, so he doesn't allow any CGI of him whatsoever. So this is way before AI was a thing, and it's written in his contract. So anything you see has to be directly him. That's what I heard.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Let's take everything with a grain of salt. But what it's happening is, so low budget actors that will do like the small scenes or yada yada background stuff, what they will do is they'll get paid for, let's say, a day's work, and then the studio will then take their image and recreate anything they want without paying the actor in the future.
That is awful. Wow.
Exactly. One of the big things I did want to comment on before we also go into our discussion back and forth is, one thing that I found quite interesting in hearing is that AI was actually created to help the white collar industry. I don't know how to say that differently, but it was to help with organization and industry and technology and all the stuff. But all it's done is hurt the creative industry and hinder that. I find it so interesting that the thing it was made for is not even what it's affecting and going after right away. This thing isn't even really AI yet. We have some AI things that are being used, but if you ask the question as well, how is, say, Google any different than ChatGPT in a sense? Because you put in things like you Google for girls' names for your book. How is that any different than asking ChatGPT to propagate a female name for you? So it's just interesting because it's not really even we have AI in the sense of how we see it in the movies, but it's already become such a creature of its own. So there's the introduction. CJ, speak.
It's morphing already. Okay. So as anybody who knows me knows that I hate change, especially big change, and especially change that affects my livelihood. Since I currently work in the publishing industry for my day job and I'm trying to become a traditionally published author, the emergence of AI scares me and pisses me off on two levels. So I want to talk about how I feel about AI in the publishing world on a professional level, and also how I feel about AI as a writer.
Well, before you even go into all that, I also want to say I'm scared shitless about AI. Like, I want people to know. Like, no, and I also heard this fight of, people don't want to talk about it. Like, they want to cancel people who talk about AI. But that's the thing. If we cancel and not talk about it, then we're not protecting ourselves and fixing the problem. Because I could be scared shitless, but we can't put our head in the sand about it.
Yeah, I don't think that is the answer, canceling it. I personally would like a support group of other people who are terrified of AI. So I think we should definitely be talking about it, even though we don't like what it is.
Here's your support group.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Just before I go into that, I saw recently, I don't know if they just made this movie really quickly because of how AI is becoming so prevalent, but there's some movie coming out soon about AI like rising up machines and robots. I will not be seeing that movie. It looks terrifying. It looks terrifying. Yeah. Oh my God. I couldn't even watch iRobot, for crying out loud. So there's no way I'm watching this.
The first time I saw that trailer, I actually thought it was some sort of like propaganda trailer.
Oh, really?
About don't like now that AI is real, like this is the future, like don't do it. And I'm like, holy crap, is this like the government telling like some sort of political?
Yeah.
And then it was like, it's a movie. I'm like, holy hell.
Yeah, I just keep wondering if they had this plan the whole time and it just coincidentally releasing now, or if they were like, okay, AI is coming out. Like, I don't know how fast you can push a movie through production or even who's in this movie, but it's just very coincidental that it's coming out now. You know,
it looks big budget, which tells me this isn't something they just.
Yeah.
But I mean, how long has ChatGPT has been a thing since at least January? I want to say. So you never know. They could have.
Yeah, what is it now? September. Yeah, that's 9 months. I guess you could make something quickly, especially if it's all AI generated.
But if they started it end of last year, which they could have gotten whiff of it.
That's true.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. But I will not be going to see that movie, and I will not be talking about it other than telling you I'm terrified of it on this podcast.
Yes, okay. We are scared.
Okay, so I think I'll start off with about how I feel about AI in the publishing world on a professional level. Does that work with you?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, so a little background about what I do in my day job. I work in publishing, and one of the main things I do is I sell translation rights for books. So, for example, if a Japanese publisher wanted to publish a Japanese translation of the Da Vinci Code, I would be the person at the U.S. publishing company to negotiate that deal and sell those translation rights to the Japanese publisher. Now, I'm not saying that I personally am the rights manager for the Da Vinci Code. I'm not. I don't even work for that publisher. But that's basically what my job is, selling the right to translate a book into another language. Could AI perform my job for free? Possibly. It's definitely possible. I don't think it would actually yield the same result, but I'm sure that CEOs might think differently if it saves them some money. And that really pisses me off. You know, I'm sure a lot of other people have this experience too, but I know a lot of people in publishing who have lost their jobs due to positions being outsourced overseas. And I feel like introducing AI into the publishing industry is the new form of outsourcing. But instead of giving the jobs to other humans, it's giving the jobs to machines, who will one day rise up and kill us all. But that is another discussion for another podcast episode.
Okay. So question there. Do you actually negotiate in your job?
I do.
How could AI negotiate, though?
You know, when you sell rights, there's usually an advance and a royalty rate. And you can figure out the advance based on a mathematical equation, based on what the publisher is going to be having their selling price be and what they're going to do for their initial print run. So you can kind of factor in all those, differences and figure out what the advance and the royalty rate should be. So if you plug enough information into AI, you probably could. You just wouldn't have that personal connection that happens between a lot of the rights managers and a lot of the publishers, which I personally love. That's my favorite part about what I do, working with people overseas, connecting with different cultures, with different people, and I really like that. And you could take that out very easily, I think, with AI. I hope my boss isn't listening. And you could probably have AI do my job for free or a much smaller cost.
It just
So,
feels weird. It feels like one of
yeah.
these things where you go to those online lawyery things and they make your terms of use for your website. You just pop in and it propagates it. I
Yeah,
just,
it could be.
to me, I know you're not a lawyer, but your job feels like lawyery in the sense of you're going to go present contracts, get contracts back.
I do.
I just, lawyers are one of those people that I don't think could ever be AI.
Well, it depends. I do have a certificate in intellectual property law. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know a lot about copyright and a little bit about trademarks, a lot about contracts. So when you're negotiating a lot of terms for a contract, there is a certain human element to it. But a lot of it is also very standard terms and very standard clauses. So a lot of it could probably eventually be put into AI somehow, where, the computer just consumes so much content, so many different contracts, so many different variables, that I unfortunately can see them talking to each other, the computers, and just hashing something out.
That's
And it would
crazy.
remove that emotional human element to it, where, like, if we're an author contracting with a publisher, the author's, vehement about something. But if you have two computers talking, there's no human emotion in that. They're just going to get the deal done, which is what CEOs want.
But now you're bringing up the conversation, though, of human interaction as being a job description and a part of society and interacting. Like, now you're bringing up the fact of, like, okay, so yeah, we could put in, as if it was an Excel file, import all the data, import the back and forth for a second, and pop out a piece of paper, essentially, that's here's the contract. But again, you're missing the human aspect. And will that alone keep jobs out of AI?
I don't know. I mean, it's a terrifying thought, and it also really pisses me off. I feel like CEOs embracing in publishing is almost an insult. Like, you're telling me a machine can do my job. So you're basically telling me that it was a waste of my time to, one, apply to college, two, spend years getting a degree that, let's be honest, I don't actually use, but I need in order to ever be considered for a higher level, non-hourly wage office job. It was a waste of time to take out and slowly, painfully pay back years of student loans and to develop a 20-year career in the publishing industry, because apparently I can just be replaced by a machine. Like, if that's the case, what have I been doing the past 2 decades? What's the point of me continuing in my career or getting any professional development for it if I can be rendered obsolete in a few years? I feel like it kind of gives me a bit of an existential crisis. Like, I just turned 40, and that's a hard enough pill to swallow. But, like, turning 40 and facing the fact that my career that I've dedicated a life to building was ultimately pointless because of a machine, like, point me to the nearest bridge now. So it's just, I don't know, it's very disturbing.
I think that because you came from a time before AI, so I feel that your story is, like, it makes sense that all that happened. But think about, like, the kids today in school now asking this question. Here's the thing: do I go for this job because right now we don't have AI in it, or do I go for something that because AI is going to replace this? And that's the other thing we don't know. How long is it going to take? Because honestly, ChatGPT, the equivalent of that AI, is crap. Like, it's not anywhere close to being able to do that kind of work yet. I've listened to people putting in inputs and trying to get it to write something, and it's very time consuming. They have to put in a lot of information for it to write something very small. So it's not there yet. Not saying that it won't be.
Not.
But your whole conversation as well. Hold on. I have two things. Rewind my brain. I have two things to say on this. One, I could see it, AI taking over the copy edits. The copy edits are formulaic. They're just, it's the same as any editor in Word or Google
Scrivener
Docs.
or something.
Yeah. Like, it goes through and it's like, oh, you're missing a period here, da, da, da. However, I do see that sometimes it edits in wrong places. And it's like, no, that there's a writing, that's an artistic touch that I'm doing. I want the there. Yeah. So I don't know if it'll ever be perfect. You still need that human element to it. But again, how can, it's an editor, a copy editor is going to call it the same thing probably. Yeah. And you just don't accept it in. So I see copy editors quickly be going out of business.
Yeah, I don't see necessarily like editors, like the ones picking the books going out of business.
Developmental editors.
Yeah, developmental editors, yeah.
Because it has to have a human element into it. You can't decide if a book is good or not based on AI, though. Now we're just going to put out formulaic stories.
I mean, aren't we already?
Yes, but
that's my other point when I'm talking about the writing section. But.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so one thing that I feel that I keep saying in your comments about the contract writing is the human element of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing about this, is the human element that AI cannot recreate in making a story.
Can it?
Well, with enough input, it probably could. But think of it as the people who fall in love with the backstory of artists.
Mm-hmm.
Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci,
Yes.
Van Gogh. One of the things that people love is to fall in love with the creator.
It's
And
true.
to kind of like become super fans. We can't become super fans of an AI.
Yeah. So this would kind of help the problem with, like separating the man from the monster, or the writer from the monster. So you have like, a schmuck and he writes beautiful poetry and you love his poetry, but you're like, oh, I can't like it because he's a monster. If you have an AI writing it, then it's just beautiful poetry. It's simple. It's uncomplicated. You can love it for exactly what it is and not the story that may be behind it, which will appeal to some people.
It will, but again, I think that knowing that it's written by a human being with human backstory and a human person we can follow might keep people to buying stories written by people instead of computer.
I hope so.
I mean, it becomes interesting because it's then turns into how can we tell? Because who says that there's not someone that's just going to be, hey, I'm going to cheat the system and get a book, AI, and now I'm going to put my name on it. So there, in some way, we need to be able to develop an authentication stamp or some sort of thing that we can prove this is human made. It's worth the money. It's worth buying art because art is supposed to be from the creative soul.
Yeah.
I heard same thing as AI was made to help white collar, give us more time to do things, make things easier, help us to create more art, not have AI create the art for us.
Take the art. Yeah.
It's just, I could see where AI can help us. One of the great examples that I am really in for is that they're using AI to track lightning strikes. And what it allows them to do is quickly attack forest fires faster.
Oh, that's very helpful.
Because we're able to do this. So I don't want to completely knock out AI because it does have really good practical uses in cutting into things and making things easier and helping us artificially intelligent information. I never expected it to just completely attack art this quickly. Like, how weak are we for it to just completely go after and attack art? Like, who are we? My mind's not getting blown. Like, who are we that is this our weakest link in society? Is this why AI is attacking it? Because creating books is our weakest link?
I don't know. I didn't think of it that way as the weakest link, but it's interesting.
It's the only thing that what else is AI attacking? I get your job, but if we think about it right now, you're probably solid for 5 years, say.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't get smart enough to do my job well enough before I'm like much nearer to retirement age. Like it can take another like 15 years or so. I still need medical benefits,
But I do hear those numbers. I hear, it's going to be like 10 more years before we're in a place that AI can be taking over jobs. But it took 6 months to take over the writing. Now, this doesn't make me feel like a smart, intelligent person anymore. If an AI can generate a book in 6 months and it's taken me 5 years to be a good writer.
Yeah. See, that's what I am worried about. So dipping into the whole writer aspect of it, I'd like to think that a robot can never write as well as a human being. I know nobody else can write the way I can. Nobody else can write the way you can. But people can come close. They can parrot it. People, parrot styles all the time. In high school, we're taught to parrot Shakespeare and Dante and all these great, people who've written literature to try and write just like them. So if we can do it, that means AI can learn to do it. And how many books have we read that are derivative of other works already? How many stories are truly original? How many writing styles are truly original? There's a lot, but it's not so many that I feel it wouldn't be easy for AI to read all the books and learn how to write beautifully, or perhaps more dangerously, at least just as well as some of the best-selling books that are written by people now.
Well, you're saying the
scariest all they have to do.
You're saying the scariest thing too, which is consuming all that content as well, because there are lawsuits going out now about the AI consuming authors' works and authors not having agreed to feeding the monster is the best way I can say it. And so there's actual lawsuits around it. But then we come into the question of what are we doing as writers? Because what we do, we did pay for the book. I would hope that they paid for the book before they fed it into the monster, but we pay for the book and we read it. So how are we any better than the AI in that sense? We do the same thing. Is this really even a court case?
I never heard about the court cases, actually. I'm really interested in that now. Because I
Yes,
always
there
like
are.
to follow like IP cases and stuff. So I'm going to look that
I
up when we
would,
get off.
yeah, I heard this like a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know where
Okay.
they are, and I don't remember who the authors exactly were. And I found horrible in that. I should have written that down when I heard it so I could be more upstanding. But yes, there are authors now going after AI for using
Hmm.
their books.
Interesting. Interesting. I feel like ultimately, like you were saying, it's up to the people to like keep writing by people alive. While having my job outsourced to a machine by a CEO isn't something I necessarily feel I will have control over, I do feel that as a reader and a writer, I can have an effect on how prevalent AI can become in the writing and reading industry. We have to clamor for books written by real people, read only books written by real people. Like you said, have some kind of authentication or stamp that says this was written by a person, not a machine.
It's
So
our
there's,
job as
yeah,
consumers to stop this here, to put an end and essentially protest. Like, don't buy one of the books. I get it if we accidentally do it. I'm not gonna like we have
yeah.
to live this goody two shoes life, but we have to set a stance now when it's a question. Same as the writers and actors have suddenly like set a stance if we don't want AI to be able to generate stories or.
Yeah.
I want to rewind really quick because I did Google. This is from The Guardian, so take it with a
Okay.
grain of salt. But earlier this month, two North American authors, and this came out in July, Mona Awad and Paul Tremblay filed a
Oh,
lawsuit against OpenAI claiming that the organization breached copyright law. OpenAI is the company behind the tool ChatGPT, a chatbot that is trained by copying large swaths of text and extracting information from it. So that's like a little excerpt from it.
hmm.
Publishers Weekly did an article about it.
Those are two major authors.
CNN, NPR, it's all over the place. I'm actually surprised because
Interesting.
Publishers Weekly did do an article about it, that you missed
Huh.
it.
I don't read all the emails that Publishers Weekly sends me. I get them
It's
through
okay, I
work,
don't
and for
either.
sometimes I have like a firewall up against it, and other times it lets me see certain articles. I have no idea why, like it lets me through or not. Like I have subscription through work, so I don't know what it thinks I'm doing, but I don't know. Sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. But that's very interesting.
Big Brother didn't want you to see the lawsuit.
Apparently, they know I would fall down a rabbit hole if I started looking at it.
But here we go. Okay, so here's the question, which is we as consumers need to be the stopping.
Though, okay, so I don't like AI, and I'm terrified of it, and I'm pissed off at it. But to play devil's advocate, so I was talking about this with my husband one day because I was all upset about it, and he reminded me that not all technology is bad, not all changes ushered in by technology is bad, at least not always in the long run. The example he gave me was the invention of the car. So stay with me here. Before the car, we got around by horses or by horse and carriage and train, but let's stick to horse and carriage because that's more of a one-to-one comparison. So before the car was invented, people needed horses to get around. They needed a place to keep the horses, people to take care of the horses, people to take care of the carriage. In short, there was a whole horse and carriage industry of workers, both people and horses. And when the car arrived and slowly became more affordable, it started replacing the need for the horse and carriage and all the people who took care of the horse and the carriage. The people who ran the stables were out of jobs. Carriage drivers were out of jobs. Carriage makers were really out of jobs. They can be retrained, of course, to work on cars, but what if they had been working with horses their whole lives and they liked it and now they're being forced out of an industry because of this fancy new invention? So when my husband was telling me this, I was like, see, that's exactly what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of becoming an out-of-work stable boy. And he's like, but you like cars, right? You wouldn't want to be without a car today. And he's right. Cars have definitely made our lives easier the more they emerge in society. So while I hate to admit it, I think the same logic could one day possibly be applied to AI. Is it going to suck while we transition? Yep, really could. But could it ultimately be better for us in the long run in ways we can't see now? Yep, possibly could. So this unfortunately slightly reasonable argument makes me feel like I should give it a fair chance before I completely disregard it as something that'll never ever be good and just something that I kind of sort of fear taking my job.
Yeah, I mean, it is a question of that we left the horse and carriage industry and we did find new jobs to replace the horse and carriage. I guess that's the biggest fear now is because we don't know what the future holds. What kind of job can a computer do that a human can do that a computer can't do? I mean, are we going to come to the point that we're inputting symptoms into a bot that then tells us what we are being sick with? How far are we going to let this? Are we really going to go dystopia in the world
I am going dystopian. I am full on sci-fi dystopian belief that one day machines will take over the world. They would develop a consciousness and they will just eradicate the need for humans because they'll make robots to make more robots, and then what will they need with us? They'll just have the robots to fix the robots and make more robots, and it just be this horrible, terrible cycle of machines. Oh my god, I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Okay, to make you feel better, supposedly statisticians actually calculated the AI apocalypse takeover, and there's only a 10% chance of it happening.
That's still not zero, though. So I'm not putting all my money on that 90%. I'm just saying.
Oh, this cracks me up
10% too much.
In Oppenheimer, there's one moment. Hold on, no. There's one moment where if they release the atom bomb, they could catch the gases in the atmosphere on fire and essentially burn the whole world with one atom bomb, because it would just burn the whole foot. So they did the calculations of it, and they said it's a near zero possibility. That's not going to happen. And the guy was like, that's near zero. You didn't say zero. You said near zero.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hung on to that. Being the scientist engineer that I am, I hung on to, I'm like, he didn't say zero. He didn't say zero.
Being the paranoid, panicky person I am, I hung on to. It's not zero. It's not zero. I like zero.
Okay, well, here's a question for you, because I have known other creatives who have brought up this question as well. And, one, people are playing with ChatGPT, and so they're getting upset that no one should play with it because you're feeding it, you're making it smarter, you're making the monster bigger. However, okay, so remember when I said that I did the Query Tracker had the question, did you use AI to write your book? Okay, so what does that mean? So if I, at any point in time, because now they're making Google very much like ChatGPT. It's pretty much an AI program.
Okay, I see
like the search bar is an AI.
Yeah.
Okay. If I search, what are some interesting star names, or what's a name generator? Technically, that's AI helping. Did I use AI to write my book?
I feel like we all know what they're leading. I think you can use Google without fear, but basically, did you just sit back and just lean back with your hands behind your head and be like, this machine, write me my Pulitzer-winning novel?
But if you go to ChatGPT instead of Google, okay, we replace the Chat, and you go and you're like, what are some conflict starters? What are words to describe, how do we draw a line? Can we use ChatGPT to help us over roadblocks, to help us come up with inspiration? Where do we draw the line of, without the very obvious, yes, I let ChatGPT write my whole book, okay? We're going the nitty gritty now. What does that mean the ChatGPT helped?
So I have not used ChatGPT. I just learned about it from somebody else, but it has been used on my behalf, and before I could object to it. Somebody was trying to help me figure out a title for Hoogly Ever After, and the person's like, oh, well, you could just use ChatGPT. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, oh, it's this. And she's like, I can just do it right now. And before I knew it, she had plugged in my synopsis and my query into ChatGPT, and it started to spell out horrible suggestions for titles, by the way. But if I had known what that was, I would have stopped her, because I don't want to be a part of that in any way.
You fed it.
It wasn't enough to sour me on the experience. What?
You fed the monster.
I did not feed the monster. Somebody fed it on my behalf unwittingly. Or else, again, if I had known, I would have said, please don't do that. I don't want my work in the monster. So it was interesting. And it also came up with horrible title suggestions, I just want to say. So again, it's not really near a place of fear yet, definitely, but one day it could be. But I don't intend to use it in any other way. I'll use Google to search things, what's the best way to poison somebody if I'm writing a murder mystery or something. Or I looked up once, what's an asshole name for a guy or something, what's the most douchebaggy sounding name? I've looked that up,
But so that's AI helping you come up with an idea. It's interesting. Okay, so really quick side tangent. I told one of your name titles, which I don't think you mind me sharing on here. It was was it American Hooga Story?
American Hooga Story,
okay.
Yeah.
So I shared that with Chris, my husband.
Yeah.
And he agreed with you that it sounded too much like American Horror Story. I know.
Vindicated. Yes.
I know.
I've always liked your husband. He's a very sensible man.
Yeah, we got into a lover spat over it.
A little lover spat, just like with Oppenheimer. Okay.
Yes.
Glad to see him right up there with Oppenheimer, causing the big arguments in people's lives.
Okay, side tangent over.
Moving on.
You don't need to gloat over this longer. Okay, I'm not gonna let you.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
I don't know. This is just the start of the conversation. I don't think we were like making any hard-hitting decisions on AI. I think you and I wanted to share our opinions and our thoughts about what's going on in the world to bring people awareness. I mean, you didn't know about the lawsuit, so now I'm hoping more people know about it. Like I said, I don't have an opinion yet because it's still too early. I do think that we're taking the right steps. I like that the agent asked about the AI. I like that Barnes & Noble is making it very clear, like, let's buy real books by real people. I like that we're not just sitting on our laurels, because that could be the very other opposite reaction that people are having is they keep their head in the sand and we're not fighting it. I appreciate SAG and Writers Union for jumping on this immediately. I think that I heard that there are quite a few people waiting to see how that pans out. And now I also heard that now we should start seeing things happen with the strike, because now that Labor Day's over and people are back from like the quiet summer, we're going to start hearing a lot more news about that, because now people need work. Now,
yeah, that's true.
So hopefully we'll get an answer on that. And I think whatever is decided, which is sad because they might not win.
Yeah.
But if whatever's decided for that is, I think, going to base the creative art world. It's going to be the starting point. It's going to be the jumping off point for decisions.
Yeah. And I feel like, with AI, as with so many other things, I don't think that, while I'm not comfortable with it, I don't think it needs to be completely eradicated. I'm hoping that there's a world where both can exist, where we can have, for example, with writing, we can have stories by people and maybe stories from AI that may open up our eyes to different ways of writing or telling stories that we haven't thought of before for some reason, however that may work out. So hopefully there's room for both. But I don't think one should automatically push out the other, especially AI pushing out real people. A little biased.
Seriously. It's such an interesting... I honestly will tell you, I did not expect this to happen in our lifetime.
I knew it would. I figured. I've been waiting for the robot revolution forever with terror in my heart. So I just got to try and make it another however many years and I'll be good.
If anyone needs hope, so you have iRobot, correct? iRobot. Well, in the same universe, there is The Foundation by the same author.
Which I'm not going to read, apparently.
No, but the show's fantastic. I told you to tell your husband
you did
to
tell me
watch
about
it.
that.
Okay. Anyway, to give a little spoiler, The Foundation is based 400 years after iRobot. And there are, no more robots. They're gone.
Because the people revolted and rose up against them?
I don't remember how iRobot ended, but yeah, probably. But now robots aren't allowed. So robots are gone.
Thank
God. There's hope.
It took 400 years for people to see sense. God, we're doomed.
There's hope, though.
There's hope. Let's hope. Let's hope there's hope.
There could be good things about AI. They could man spaceships for us to do, farther reaches where humans can't go yet.
That is a really good point. Like in all those space movies, there's always those things where like people go on missions for 3 years and they won't ever see home again or something. Like that would absolutely be fantastic.
AI needs to run the ship while everyone's in cryo sleep because we can't. You don't want to die on the long trip. I mean, there's positives.
We can't do cryo sleep yet, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, no, we're gonna know.
You watch more stuff than I do. I don't know. You're more sciencey than I just see all these things on TV. I'm like, that hasn't happened yet, right?
I mean, there's that, secret spaceship that, will take away, if the world ends, will take away the rich people that supposedly Taylor Swift already has a ticket on. I'm sure that has cryo sleep on it.
Probably.
So why would they tell us? I mean, if it's true that Disney's frozen somewhere and underneath Magic Kingdom, I mean, I wouldn't know. I didn't find him.
Every time I think of cryosleep, all I can think about is that 1990s movie with Mel Gibson, Forever Young. Do you remember that movie?
No.
Yeah. It was from 1993 or something. And he plays this World War II guy, I think his fiance gets really sick. And he decides he wants to be frozen until there's a cure for her. And so he gets unfrozen somehow, in the 1990s. And Jamie Lee Curtis might be in it too, actually.
Huh.
And then he wakes up in 1990 and hilarity ensues because he's like 50 years after his time. But that's all I think about whenever I think about like being frozen into sleep and then waking up later is Forever Young with Mel Gibson.
I think Idiocracy, which is playing out perfectly. So, yeah.
Very apropos. Indeed.
Any last thoughts on AI?
No. I have expressed my thoughts and my fears adequately, I feel. If
I
not
would
loudly.
love for our listeners to sound off in the comments to let us know their thoughts. I think that this is a very interesting conversation, but I want to tell people, just don't be scared. Let's not put our heads in the sand. We are what's going to stop. Right now it's going to set the precedent for the entire future of AI in art.
No pressure.
And let's keep prioritizing the author and the creator behind the art. And let's enjoy being able to see, but like, because an AI is not going to be able to tell someone, I came up with this story because of this one line and I was sitting here, and you know how we romanticize the creative journey with authors. And I do think that, like I said, it's the way we follow and collect authentic pictures by the famous artists. We don't want knockoffs. We want the real thing because we follow and fall in love with the people who made it.
Everybody loves an origin story.
Exactly. And so art itself has origin stories. And I think that's what makes art is because we are such different walks of life and different inputs coming in us to have our brain create different things. And a formula from a computer, no matter how advanced it is never going to be able to completely recreate something that someone's own mind can from different inputs. And we just got to remember that. But could there be ways that we can implement AI correctly that could make the process easier, help self-published authors more? You know, is there ways that now, like, if we could copy edit with AI, we can make it cheaper for people? It's just, there are a lot of questions. Like, instead of being so scared, maybe we can just find out ways for it to work for us. Let's take the power back.
If AI wants to follow up on unpaid invoices for translation contracts that I sent out, is more than welcome to do that on my behalf. I do not mind relinquishing that part of my job over to AI. And that is on record.
That's funny. But, okay, so quick question. When people translate it, are they actually having physical people translate the book?
As far as I know, yes. But
AI could do that.
Yeah. No one's come to me saying that they're going to have AI do that, but that's a very interesting question, actually. I should look out for that in the coming months/years.
We would like an update if you hear about that.
Yeah, I think I should start asking publishers who come to me requesting rights if they're going to have a person or an AI translate it.
That's interesting.
And honestly, from some of the translations I've seen done, it maybe wouldn't be bad to have an AI do it. Pains me to say that, but it's super true. So
it makes me a little sad. It's like certain books where they have other alien species and they wear like a clip-on to translate for them. It just makes me sad that we might not learn languages the same way that we do now because we have performed some sort of AI thing that allows us to. I'm excited to be able to communicate freely with people, but also I'm sad at the idea of I want to learn languages, but it could become a dead thing, kind of like the dead languages, the dead, like, classics. Like, who studies classics anymore? Yeah.
A lot of us could be out of jobs, out of educational ideas, and out of degree ideas and major ideas. So it could be a whole different landscape for applying to college in a few years.
I'm just glad I'm done with that. I'm on the other side.
Yeah.
So, but I know I actually have a friend. I have a friend who went back to his master's in artificial intelligence to like start working on it. And I know
no, I'm kidding.
There was a job posted to work on the AI, and it was paying $900K a year.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I was an English major. I'm never gonna make that. Okay. Good for him. Well, good for him.
I was an engineering major, and I clearly don't use my piece of paper. Though for some reason I haven't updated LinkedIn, and I keep getting recruiter calls the past month. I'm just like, joke's on you. I catfished you with my LinkedIn profile because I haven't updated that in 7 years.
Seriously.
So those 7 years you think I have, I don't.
No. No, joke's on you.
All right, friends. Well, I will give out one last call. tell us your thoughts below. Like, do you think AI could be used for good? It could be used for bad? Can we actually implement it without losing the human behind the creative process? Sound off below. Vote on the poll. And if you want to join us next week, there's only 4 weeks in September, correct? I'm pretty sure.
So.
Okay. Well,
yes.
The last Thursday of
yes.
the month, which should be next week, make sure to join in for our book club read. It's not too late to join in. The book is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. If you don't have a copy, feel free to use one of our affiliate links below for bookshop.org. It does not cost you any more. It just helps us get a little kickback so we can keep making this great content for you guys. And we hope that you have a great rest of your week, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Bye, friends.
Bye, everyone.